Welcome to the debate. Today, we're tackling a question that really sits at the heart of how we build engineers. It shapes careers, it shapes teams. Is mastering C++ a necessary trial by fire that forges fundamentally stronger engineers? Or is it actually an unnecessary barrier, a counterproductive filter we put in front of talent? And just before we dive in, a quick note for our listeners, especially the many self-taught programmers out there. While this conversation is, structured with a little AI help to keep us on track, the actual analysis, the perspectives, that's all grounded in real-world expert opinion and evidence. This is focused discourse, not just generic content.
Right. And the disagreement really comes down to how we define engineering excellence. I mean, are we talking about the systems thinker, the person who lives and breathes memory, clock cycles, power constraints? Or are we talking about the pragmatic problem solver, who's all about speed of execution, about shipping business logic fast?
And that's the core of it. I'll be arguing that C++ gives you this essential, deeply transferable mental model of the machine. That rigor is foundational engineering strength. It's non-negotiable for the systems that power everything.
And I'm going to argue that the accidental complexity of C++ creates this huge sunk cost. For most roles today, it's a barrier that does more harm than good. It actually hurts flexibility and, slows everything down.
My whole thesis here is that C++ is a necessary crucible. It has to be, because it teaches you this permanent, transferable mental model of how a computer actually works. It stops being magic and it becomes a mechanism with rules you have to manage. It really forces you to learn and, frankly, worry about memory management, and pointers are the key to that education. I mean, when you ask the OS for memory with, say, malloc or new, it has to give you back a pointer. It's not a choice. That pointer is the memory address on the heap. And once you've struggled with that and gotten it right, you get the difference between passing data by value versus by reference. And just to be clear for everyone, passing by value, you're copying the data. It's a new copy on the stack. Passing by reference, you're just copying the address, the pointer. That's it. Understanding that and the cost of each it's just vital. And that trial by fire makes you a better engineer, even when you leave C++ behind. Think about a developer in a managed environment like the JVM. A C++ trained Java developer can actually reason about what the JVM is doing under the hood. They understand the fundamental cost of garbage collection. They know that when the GC runs, it can trigger a stop the world pause. For a real-time system or anything with high concurrency, a pause of even a few milliseconds can be, catastrophic. That C++ foundation lets them see it coming, tune it, avoid it. It's what positions them to build truly high-performance, scalable systems. They have that deep conceptual control.
I see it from a completely different angle. I agree C++ gives you that control, sure, but it is an unnecessary barrier. The time you sink into mastering its accidental complexity, and that's the key, the complexity of the tool, not the problem, is just a devastating sunk cost. I mean, you hear top-tier systems engineers call the language overly complex, or even a garbage heap of ideas that's just been bolted on for decades. As a developer, you're fighting this bottomless pit of syntactical traps. Take the most vexing parse, for instance. It's a classic. The compiler literally can't tell if you're declaring a variable or a function just because of some parentheses. And that's before you even get to the really arcane stuff, like the rules of 0357. And just to quickly explain that, these are rules that dictate which special functions you have to write or delete in a class to manage its resources correctly. We're talking copy constructors, destructors, move semantics. It's this immense cognitive load of just tracking object life cycles manually. And none of that is about solving the actual business problem. It's just about wrestling with the tool. So I'd argue this difficulty often just becomes a way to, signal talent. It's a filter to create this elite aura, like for roles in high-frequency trading. But that filter might actually be selecting against the fast, pragmatic problem solvers. And that sunk cost is real. You see it all the time. C++ developers often have the smallest range of language knowledge. It limits them, and it's kind of at odds with the whole modern growth mindset that we say is so important for senior engineers.
Okay, I see why you think that. You're focusing on the accidental complexity, the
the cost of learning all the weird corners of the language. But let me offer a different perspective on the outcome of that struggle. That rigor you're talking about, it is foundational. The discipline it teaches is so transferable that it really offsets that sunk cost. A systems thinker who comes up through C++ is just used to things like static typing and explicit contracts. So when they move to, say, Python, a dynamic language, that discipline they learned comes with them. It forces them to think beforehand about their data structures. They tend to write more defensive code, they'll add type hints, they'll add validation, even when the language doesn't make them. And that just leads to better, more robust, more maintainable code no matter where they are. That mental model is a direct asset.
Sorry, I just don't buy that the transfer is always a positive one. Let me tell you why. That low-level focus often leads to what you could call negative skill transfer. This is where you see like old-school C-style programmers bring their mental habits into a high-level world where they just don't apply. They engage in all this counterproductive, premature optimization because they don't trust the modern abstractions. So, for example, a C-trained dev needs to do some numerical task in Python. Their first instinct is to write a big, complex manual for loop, iterating over everything one by one, because that feels like efficient, low-level control, right? But the correct Pythonic and vastly faster solution is a single call to a vectorized function in NumPy. And why is that faster? Because NumPy's core is written in highly optimized C and Fortran. It operates on whole arrays at once, using hardware parallelism that a Python for loop just can't touch. So in that case, their C++ knowledge, their instinct for manual control, it becomes a liability. It actively prevents them from using the modern tool correctly. They end up writing slower, more complicated code.
That's a compelling point about negative skill transfer, I'll give you that. But it's really an argument about the misuse of knowledge, not about whether the knowledge itself is necessary. The precise control C++ gives you isn't just academic or a source of bad habits. It is absolutely vital for squeezing every last drop of performance out of a system where it really counts. I'm talking about the ability to have precise control over memory layout. That's a concept you can't even express in a lot of high-level languages. A C++ developer can choose to lay out, say, 1,000,000 3D vertices as a contiguous array of structs. Now, why is that so critical? Because it guarantees the data is sequential in memory, which is fantastic for the CPU cache. It gives you great spatial locality. Right, to break that down for a second, the CPU doesn't grab data byte by byte. It pulls in big chunks called cache line. If your data is all laid out in a row, the CPU grabs one cache line, and odds are the next 10 things it needs are right there in its super fast L1 cache. If the data is scattered everywhere, which happens easily in managed languages, you get a cache miss. The CPU just sits there waiting for slow main memory. And this is a huge deal for business. In big distributed systems, this kind of control, optimizing memory buffers, it can shave off tens of milliseconds. And 10 milliseconds might not sound like a lot, but multiply that by millions of transactions a day, and the savings in latency, in throughput, in your cloud bill, they become monumental. That's a level of optimization you can't ignore.
That's a very interesting point on optimization. And look, I'll concede that for those highly specialized, highly constrained systems, you need that control. But I'd frame the debate differently when you think about who we're asking to learn this. That control is powerful, yes, but the barrier to entry isn't just the syntax, it's the entire ecosystem. And that's where the filter becomes, I think, really counterproductive. For a beginner, especially someone teaching themselves, the C++ environment is, well, it's a nightmare. You're immediately hit with all this infrastructure friction. You have to learn about compilers, GCC, Clang, then linkers, then these crazy complex build systems like CMake or Makefiles just to get Hello World to run. And the error messages, they're just cryptic. You get pages of template substitution errors that have literally nothing to do with pure computer science. You spend days debugging your toolchain, not your logic. And that friction, it just filters out so much potential talent way too early. And this whole problem is made so much worse by what the material calls academic lag. I mean, it's just baffling that universities are still teaching this legacy C-style C++ like C++ 98 with raw pointers in intro courses. It creates this frightening, unnecessarily brutal experience for students. If they just adopted a modern C++ first curriculum, teaching STD vector and smart pointers like STD unique PTR from day one, which automate all that cleanup for you, then the whole raw pointer trial by fire could be moved to an advanced class for the people who actually need it. That pedagogical shift would change C++ from a barrier by default to a trial by choice, and that would solve so much of the problem.
I fully acknowledge the ecosystem is a huge hurdle, and the way C++ is taught is, yeah, it can be shameful. It should absolutely be taught with modern tools first. But I think trying to force a single answer here, is it a barrier or is it a foundation, is a category error. The usefulness of C++ is completely 100% dependent on the domain. For some domains, it's not even a debate. High-frequency trading, game engines, embedded systems, OS kernels, performance is the product. C++ is non-negotiable. It's the price of entry. You're not going to build a competitive, low-latency trading system in Python. And even in areas like machine learning, you have this symbiotic relationship. Python is the head. It's where you experiment. But C++ is the hands. It's the high-performance infrastructure that makes libraries like NumPy and TensorFlow and PyTorch even possible. You're using C++ constantly. You just don't see it. I think we have to have a multi-tier model for engineering. You need the systems thinkers who go through that trial by fire. They build the optimized C++ core, the scaffolding, and then you have the pragmatic problem solvers who build applications on top of it, focusing on speed and business value. You need both, and C++ is the ticket to that foundational tier.
Now, I'm not convinced by that, because while the multi-tier model sounds right, and I agree, the systems tier needs C++, it just ends up reinforcing the signaling problem in hiring, which I think poisons the well for everyone else. Okay, if we accept that model, then hiring managers have to stop using C++ as a general-purpose filter for jobs in the application tier. For web, for mobile, for most enterprise work. In those domains, developer productivity and speed are what matter. And in that context, C++ is absolutely an unnecessary barrier. It's a real sunk cost.
Let me challenge your point on cost. If an HFT firm needs 10 C++ wizards and it takes them 18 months to hire them at top dollar, okay, that's the cost of doing business in that tier.
But if the startup needs 10 app developers to ship features, and they filter out everyone who doesn't know C++, even though they'll be working in Go or TypeScript, they're just slowing themselves down for no reason. We have to align hiring with the actual needs of the domain, not some abstract idea of what a real engineer knows.
Well, I think this debate has really highlighted the two archetypes of engineering we need and where they fit. C++ remains the path for the systems thinker. It's how you master the machine to deliver that non-negotiable performance for core infrastructure and gaming. That deep knowledge is the backbone.
And on the flip side, the challenge for any modern engineering org is to know when that sunk cost and complexity of C++ is a liability, not an asset. For the vast majority of application roles, it's a detrimental barrier. The focus has to be on high-level problem solving and, frankly, better teaching, whether that's Python first or just a reformed, modern C++ curriculum. That's how you build a faster, more flexible workforce.
So the real conflict here isn't just C++ versus another language. It's a philosophical clash, really, between bottom-up and top-down ways of teaching and thinking, made more complex by the absolute necessity of domain specialization. It's about applying the right tool and the right standard to the right tier of the problem.
Yeah, and we have to remember the landscape is always changing. A language like Rust is now in the conversation, promising C++ level performance with built-in memory safety, getting rid of that whole raw pointer trial by fire by design. That's a real looming challenge to C++'s dominance in the systems tier. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, deep performance won't be tied to C++'s historical complexity forever. There's clearly a lot more to explore here.